Who is the greatest fantasy race? A question nerds have argued for years, creating great rivalries. Elves or dwarves? Orcs or dwarves? Dwarves or dwarves? Humans or their own skeletons? Then, to make the question harder, what is the best type of these races? A strong fighter, wise wizard, or a pervert? But in the 1800s, a man called Charlie Darwin figured this out as he sailed a ship around the world looking at bird wieners, until his vessel and crew were blown up by rat pirates. As they made him walk the plank, he was quoted saying, "Tell fine shorties back home, I've gone and done it. Found the peak of the evolutionary chain, rat pirates." Specifically, Clan Skurvy, the coolest of the 24 playable Skaven clans, who start the game with a pirate kill list. Each pirate lord you defeat around the world of Total Warhammer 3 gains you powerful permanent bonuses ranging from powerful abilities, impactful passives, and a meth addiction. Can we defeat enough pirate lords to empower our hero Scretch Half-Dead to be strong enough for the end game, or would we spend 100 turns sailing around the world in a dead fish? Let's find out. Firstly, we start our campaign next to the giant elven donut known as Ulthuan. We have no cities to our name, only a giant dead whale we sail around the dangerous Warhammer seas in, captained by our legendary lord Scretch Half-Dead, who is a pretty capable fighter for a drunk rat who thinks a dead whale is a viable mode of transport. In his crew, we start with basic scurvy crew rats, some sneaky rats, a rat with an IED, a cannon, but most importantly, the bread and butter of our army, scurvy crew rat warp musketeers, a pirate rat with a bayoneted musket whose damage output is balanced and reasonable. However, the upgraded version of these units are Scurvy Storm Vermin Warp Musketeers, who are virtually the same unit, but they walk around in full plate armor, with defensive stats comparable to the toughest orc war bosses in the game. But whereas they carry a shield, we have a VB long neck and an elephant rifle that can put out 800 times their damage. If you at the sight of these guys aren't screaming at your screen, please God, run me over with an 18-wheeler and reincarnate me as a drunk zombie pirate rat, you are functionally a moron and should be slowly lowered into a 300-gallon blender. Anyway, these guys are a high tier unit, but luckily we start the game with one. This should in theory put us in a good position for our first kill. Cylostra Direfin, a local British woman located to the north. At the slightest sight of our sails on the horizon, wait, we're in a dead fish, we don't have sails. The moment Cylostra Direfin saw us, she declared war and sailed out to meet us with a full army of disgusting zombie pirates with guns. Yuck! I said, fielding my based army of zombie pirate rats with guns. This was scary, because if we lose one fight, our run is over, as we can't settle any cities. Only use our ship as a home base, and Cylostra wanted it sunk. But as she came closer, I was able to get our first upgrade, the Rat's Nest. This allowed us to train Scurvy Crew Rat Warp Musketeers, and after juking her long enough to house a full army, she was cooked. Even with her doubling our level with a legendary item, giant cannons, a hero in her army, giant monsters and Instagram influencers, 8 lines of drunk rats with muskets pushing powder down their barrels might have been a little too much for her. She agreed, immediately asking for peace after one fight, and that was fine, as we now had the permanent buff from beating her in battle, gaining us permanent physical and spell resistance. A great buff. It's nothing too flashy, but having it this early on and for the rest of the game is pretty strong. One down, but fret not, as we are just getting started. There are 12 pirates on our kill list, and using the #1 rated search engine, screaming at you in the basement until I get an answer. Make sure to subscribe while you're down here. I have the locations of 7 pirate lords, while the other 5, I have no idea. But the next pirate lord was right nearby. Shakara Rael, the dangerous leader of a minor dark elf faction. Karond Ka, rulers of the Tower of Despair. They're already dead. Turns out playing as a rat pirate is hardcore. You only have 1 life, no cities, a list of objectives with no in-game markers, and those objectives can be destroyed, permanently removing the chance of you ever getting it. This was immediately stressful. More stressful than picking between melted butter and superglue at the brothel when faced with 18 naked men. Speaking of naked men, Wulfrik the Wanderer, a deranged Scandinavian man who spends his time walking around the frozen tundra yelling at giant hippos until they do what he wants. And apparently this is at the top of my rat piracy to-do list. Warhammer lore just makes sense. Now I know what you're thinking, my dearest viewer. Firstly, can I have some more basement cheese? No. Secondly, is 6,000 anthrax-coated bullets really enough to kill a ginger, the scariest of all fantasy creatures? And the answer is much like my response when asked to stop licking motor oil. No. But this is where we could get a little creative, hiring our first rat pirate hero, Captain Rat Sparrow, who is a scurvy sniper. This faction's answer to an assassin, but more importantly, we now had 6,001 anthrax-coated bullets, and Wulfrik the Wanderer, with his full stack of shirtless men and giant hippos, didn't last long. In their defense, they put up a good fight, but once all their flanking units met the firing squad, there was nothing to stop my giant rat gunline from free firing on anything that moved, and Wulfrik's health bar wandered away, gaining us a permanent movement bonus on the overworld and allowing us to go into deep waters with no negative effects. These will both be handy to track down other pirates while racing against the clock of them being wiped out. The bonus to Norskin politics, however, can suck the farts right out of my crack hole. Even with a victory, our army was beat, but we were rewarded with another scurvy sniper, Rattan Hook. Shout out to Dr. Pullout for suggesting these names on stream. If anyone needs a good doctor, I cannot help you. Speaking of pulling out, the next on our list was Aranessa Saltspite, a legendary pirate lord located down south, right next to Skaven Blight. Out of the frozen fjords of the Northlands, past the Donut, after Castle Lioness, sorry, wrong video. By the time we reached her turf, we had many ship upgrades, allowing us to field the extremely powerful Scurvy Storm Vermin Warp Musketeers, and a Scurvy Gunnery Warlock hero, named Bang Bang. I heard his cousin was high up in the ranks of Clan Pestilence. This hero had some fun abilities like firing a rocket, reloading allies, and later on he could call in fire support from the ship onto the battlefield, which was a little confusing as I don't know where the cannons are on a dead fish. The journey to Aranessa was long and dangerous, with other pirates like sloppy Crookshanks patrolling the seas. But this was not only good for my new stage name, but good for XP. By the time we found old Salt Sniffer, Scratch was level 20, unlocking the Giant Crab Mount. Aranessa must have thought we were compensating for something, as her crab was way smaller.
That's pretty average.
Regardless, the giant crab battle in the ruined cities while my drunk rats flanked and covered on the battlements was one of the most metal things I've ever seen. Beating Aranessa gave us a permanent speed and charge bonus upgrade, which for a normal rat isn't very good, but for a 40-foot tall unkillable crab, pretty good. Speaking of things that are pretty good, not being a cuck, as Aranessa pays us off to leave her alone after blowing up her hood and shaming her crab riding abilities. If you were to put every Warhammer character in a lineup and ask who is the most likely to have crabs, she would get my vote. Beating her took us to around turn 50, and remember, one character was permanently taken away from us. So when faced with the Bermuda Triangle of pirates here in the Great Sea, we needed to hurry. My plan was to sail down and take out Luther Harkin, then head north for Count Nautilus. If either of these guys died before I get there, I would be sad and explode. To avoid this sadness, I became a chronic online shopper and ordered 3 units of our most powerful infantry, Scurvy Deck Engineers. I thought these guys would just shoot more bullets and be more wacky. But when I reached the Awakening, Luther Harkin's capital, I was a tad surprised as the moment I started battle, green streaks ran across the sky, and within 1 second the enemy didn't have any defenses anymore. This just makes sense. And honestly, if you didn't foresee drunk rats screaming sea shanties on a dead fish developing the best in missile technology, you are an idiot. You have failed my class and are sentenced to 1 week in the basement with Freg the Frog. Good luck. Luther Harkin needed some luck as 100 cross-map bunker busters to his ballsack seemingly wasn't part of his morning routine. Beating him earned us the passive meth addiction ability, which is great for combat, and luckily for us, this game has a lot of it.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's true.
There will be a lot of fights.
Exactly.
Count me in then.
Good.
Good.
But during this time, Count Nautilus was killed. This was bad. I didn't want to lose out on another buff, and one I was so close to. I had a scheme, however. If I load back just a couple of rounds when I take the Awakening's capital, the Awakening, I can then gift it to another faction, as Clan Skurvy do not keep territory, only loot and trade it for reputation. You can do this with every major Skaven faction and the Dreadfleet. So by gifting him 1 territory, I can keep him alive, introduce Luther Harkin to the optimal morning routine, then chase down Count Nautilus, who was trying to fight against the Pestilence Brotherhood, a coalition of Skaven factions who have taken over Lustria under the banner of Clan Pestilence. This would include Clan Fisic, the Bubonic Court, and a small clan of rats who live on the beach called Clan Scrat. Wow, they seem pretty cool. Anyway, this guy's dead. He held up better than old Luther, so we brought out our rat air force with scurvy warp-fire gunships. Rat pirates with helicopters led by a rat on a crab fighting a vampire pirate on a living undead pirate ship. If this isn't making sense to you, you are a functioning idiot and I cannot help you. And there is no way you will survive the next video. 5 pirates on our list were eliminated by us, with only 1 slipping through our fingers. To reach the next pirate lord, Lockyer Fellheart, we needed to travel across the world to Cathay, using this ocean portal, which, unfortunately for everyone, was guarded by high elves. I don't understand why people like this faction. They literally tell you in their name they're stoners and live on a giant donut. Having the munchies all the time has really warped their perception of good real estate. Say no to drugs, kids. Unless it's warpstone or anthrax. That's a combo that will put Galaxy Gas to shame. What are we talking about again? Oh yeah, the elven blockade. Dragons, mages, higher level cavalry, and a giant phoenix making up one of the 2 armies we had to fight was a humbling experience. Our damage output is some of the best in the game, but our capacity to adapt to ever-changing military strategy is not in our wheelhouse. I won, but at the cost of most of our army and all of our powerful Scurvy deck engineers. This was a huge financial and time loss, as it takes multiple rounds to recruit these guys, but this being the hardest battle we had fought confirmed something I had been seeing battle after battle. Our hero had taken no damage. With only 5 of the 12 buffs, 1 powerful item, and only being level 31 out of 50, he had consistently ended the last few battles with no damage and barely any ammo used by the other gun rats that rode atop the giant crab. The world of Warhammer is a dangerous place, but I might have accidentally released the danger. To this, I would like to apologize to absolutely no one. Well, except for Lockyer Fellhart, who was eaten by a 15-foot tall crocodile while I was sailing over to kill him. Truly, we have reached the grim dark future. With his death, this marked the turning point for me, as I had no idea who or where the rest of these freaks were. Like, who is Gut Rot Spume and where is his address? I have an anthrax-shaped package for him. This might seem bad, that we can't get more buffs, but if this is where our story lands, let's not turn away from it. Our units were strong, we had all the pirate-based buffs and technology from our tech trees, great heroes including the new Terry Tidesqueak, our Tidesqueaker mage, and finally our legendary lord might be unkillable. If you look at the title of this video, it's not can I get all the buffs on some quirky list, it's proving that rat pirates are the peak of evolution. So to do that, let's track down the toughest opponents in the game and see if Undead Rat Pirate Crab God is a viable endgame build. And to start with that one, let's wrangle this 15-foot freshy. Crikey, look at the chomper on him. Thankfully for us, we used 60 of our food to call in another crew, whom spawned with Scurvy Doom rocket launchers. Fair dinkum, this helped us blast through our chomper here, and you butte right into Cathay, which just so happened to house the second strongest faction in the game. The Western Provinces, ruled by Zao Minj, the Iron Dragon. Ideally, we would challenge the strongest faction in the game, but at this point I didn't know who that was, and honestly having a boxing match with a magical dragon sounds like a good family-friendly weekend activity. To track down the Iron Dragon, we started a war with Cathay and moved north towards their Great Wall. Along the way, we started giving territory to Clan Eshin, who spawn Ono the Insane to protect their lands. Least deranged Clan Eshin move. Speaking of deranged, our efforts in the eastern lands caught the attention of 2 naked men duct taped to each other, and they asked to be my friend. Despite helping multiple Skaven clans this whole run, no one was actually my friend. In fact, most people were my enemy. So having a friend was an exciting thought. Not sure what brunch with these 2 guys would be like, but gotta play the hand you're dealt. I started destroying the Great Wall of Cathay and giving it to Clan Eshin, which was a huge mistake, as they were a bunch of dysfunctional crackheads, not defending the lands I gave them, and outside of that, their only territory was Bitter Bay? Where in the Great Horned One is Bitter Bay? Why is Death Master Snitch on a completely different island? Okay, it's time to start giving territory to Clan Rictus instead. This was enough of a commotion to lure out the Iron Dragon himself. At the Dragon's Gate. We get it, dude. You're a scaly. Chill out. This battle was going to be a great test of our rat pirate power. The second strongest faction at one of their most powerful cities, with a second army and a garrison to back them up. Unfortunately for them, however, I now had one single unit of Scurvy Warp Bombers. This is a perfectly balanced and functional unit. It is definitely not so strong it lags my game whenever I use its ability, and to make things even more fair and fun for everyone, the previously mentioned hero Bang Bang can refill allies' ammunition. So my undead rat pirate air force would decimate any enemy artillery or clumped units in their tight city streets. They would then fly over the walls our balanced gun crews controlled and refill their ammo. This was beyond busted. And keep in mind, I haven't even mentioned what our unkillable hero or sniper teams were doing this whole time. But I can finally answer the age-old question. Dragon versus Crab? Who wins? Life was good in Cathay. Rats now owned the Great Wall. There was no more scaly conversations. I had begun making more friends. Wait, what was that sound? That distant rumble. That harrowing gurgle. It cannot be the sound of the average British male. Grimgor Ironhide, the rank 1 toughest faction in the world. This would be it, the true test of strength. I quickly tunneled under the mountain to his territory, escaping the 4 fanboys who had been following me.
Ladies, I'm trying to do my work today.
With no time to waste, I started sacking his territory, gifting it to both Clan Rictus and Eshen, which made them both my allies just in time to save Clan Eshen, as they had lost the territory I gave them and Bitter Bay. Crushing cities under our crabby legs and armies by our ratty fangs. Every step we took empowered the rat and our new rat alliance, bringing us closer and closer to the toughest hero in the world. Which was funny, as after we defeated the dragon, the new second toughest faction was Clan Pestilence, who in this mod would unite the Pestilence Brotherhood, including Clan Scrat. So if I defeat Grimgor Ironhide, it will make Clan Pestilence the strongest faction in the world, empowering Clan Scrat in back-to-back rat videos. How does he keep getting away with this? I see you, Grimgor. In classic orc fashion, he abandons the safety of Ashridge Mountain and the aid of his ally, attempting to ambush us, but we are the rat. No one ambushes better than us. I catch him and his backup army and then retreat.
Panic flee!
This is it. The toughest guy in the game. And I already knew my army was stronger. We even had an extra crew spawn in with another Scurvy Warp Bomber. This fight would be too easy. If I wanted to prove rat pirates are the best, I would need to surrender my units to my other crew and ride into battle with only Captain Rat Sparrow, Rattan Hook, Bang Bang, Terry Tide Squeak, and Scretch half dead. Us then ambushing him removed his extra army. I don't know how orcs work. I sent Scretch half dead right in to fight Grimgor and his horde, while Bang Bang and Terry Tide Squeak hid on the other side of a local forest. Trees provide cover from ranged attacks, so they were pretty safe to call in artillery fire and summon the Kraken. Grimgor caught wind of this, however, and sent over his best cavalry units to counter. Oh no! I thought, if I was an idiot. See, this is what we in the rat biz call a scheme. Splitting our forces in two on the front line provided ample opportunity for Captain Rat Sparrow and Rattan Hook to set up on the hillside, decimating his artillery and free firing for the rest of the fight. Snipe after snipe, crushing crab blows, artillery, ghost pirate ships, and ghost pirate rats. Finally, Grimgor was the last orc left, and with no more of his army to feed our giant crab, he died, doing some damage to one of our 5 units. I think I can safely make the statement that rat piracy is pretty bowler. As we traveled around the world fighting pirate lords, building an epic army, gaining powerful heroes, saving rat kind again, and unleashing an unspeakable horror aimed at any non-rat or naked guy we come across. And finally, we all retired for a drink at Bitter Bay. Thank you for watching, and a special thanks to my YouTube members and Twitch subscribers for supporting the channel. And tune in next time when I take you, my viewers, out of the basement and into the dungeon. The darkest dungeon. We're here to deal with some rats. Was just gunned down in the hood.
He's the GOAT! He's literally the best character we have!